Hey guys, this week me and James are breaking down the first week of NFL free agency the best way we know how with an NFL mock draft. We are breaking down the first half of round one today, figuring out where the heads are of each NFL team after they've made some additions this last week in free agency. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel at A to Z Sports Film Room, and make sure you guys are following us on Twitter at A to Z Sports NFL. The football room is now open. Welcome, everybody. The football room is now open. My name is Destin Adams. I'm an NFL draft analyst here at A to Z Sports, and I'm joined by Mr. X's and O's himself, James Foster. James, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Free agency week was pretty hectic, but glad to be getting back into the draft stuff.
Way more like good film that you had to watch this week for Titans players than you thought, probably, right?
Yeah, I was expecting a pretty long list. I wasn't expecting to get to watch Calvin Ridley, though, so that was pretty exciting.
Pleasant surprises.
Low bar, but I think probably the best route runner the Titans have ever had, at least since I've been watching them.
Man, Kyle Phillips doesn't get any love there, huh?
A best route runner besides Kyle Phillips.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have the bars now. But as you guys can probably see to our right, we are going straight into the NFL draft. Free agency wave one has hit. We've seen some of the most notable free agents come off the board and finding out where their new homes are. And we're going to talk about how that kind of has changed our thought process on how this first round of the NFL draft is going to go. Today, you will see us cover picks 1 through 16. Next episode, you're going to see us cover pick 17 through 32. I'm going to handle the odds. James is going to handle the evens, and we're going to draft this first round out for you guys. So, any questions before we start, James?
My only question is, are you going to draft Caleb Williams with the Chicago Bears? Because I've seen there's a loud minority of Bears fans that are very upset that Justin Fields was traded. It's kind of wild to me. Like, I've been reading message board threads and stuff. I didn't realize that this group of people existed. But are you also on board that they should pass on Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're that upset, just trade the number one pick to Pittsburgh and just ask for Justin back real quick. But yeah, I'm not going to do that. I am going to start it out now. I'm going to do more so what I think these teams are going to do, not as much as what I would do, because I've been pretty open this entire process. Drake May is my number one quarterback in this class. I think Caleb Williams is a fantastic prospect, but I think Drake May is just as strong. And where I feel like Drake May has a edge over Williams for me, though, is his ability to play in structure. But I think the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams, but I just wanted to give Drake May his props one more time on an episode. But I'm going to take Caleb Williams for the Bears here at 101. The Bears have to go quarterback, and they have to get it right. Brian Poles and, man, old Colts coach, and I just forgot his first name, but Eberflus, They've been able to kind of ride the coattails of, we didn't draft this guy the entire time. So there was that question mark. Who knew how long they could last a little bit because of it. Once you draft your guy this high, like, that really starts that clock for you. It starts the 5-year window for a roster, obviously. But if Caleb Williams doesn't work out anymore, there's no one else to blame. You're not going to be able to point at anybody else. They're not going to be able to look at Ryan Pace, the last GM, and say, this is your fault anymore. Like, I drafted Caleb Williams. I have to live by it. I think there is a lot to love about Caleb Williams as a prospect, and I think he will bring a lot of fun football to this really exciting roster after the first week of free agency for sure.
Yep, totally agree. And I think the Bears are, despite not really having much success in the wins-loss column, I actually think that roster-wise, they're set up pretty good. Darnell Wright looks like a stud. Get another offensive lineman in there, maybe another weapon, and I think you can roll with that. So I got the Commanders at 2. again, this is a what I think is going to happen mock draft. If you're watching this on the channel, most of the mock drafts that I've done on there have been what I would do. So just drawing that distinction, I am going to still say that I think the Commanders take Drake May. He's also my quarterback one by a slim margin, and I'm just going to choose to believe that it's smoke screen season with all of the Drake May and JJ McCarthy going over him chatter. I mean, I'm sure that there are teams that might have Drake May as quarterback 3, quarterback 4, but when you watch the tape and then you go back through the tape, there are negative plays, but not something that I would classify as like bad film. People are drawing similarities between Drake May and Justin Herbert, for example. I think Drake May clearly has better tape than Justin Herbert. I see so many like analysts on TV. I've seen it multiple times in the past few weeks saying that he needs to sit out a full year. So it kind of makes me feel like I'm living in a different reality with how Drake May is being viewed as a prospect. He's, an imperfect high level quarterback prospect that is, going to need to develop like every single prospect in this class, but not someone that I would classify as a project.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy every year. I mean, the Stroud stuff last year was crazy to me. I had Stroud as quarterback 1 last year, so for it to be back-to-back years where it's the guy who's my quarterback 1 cracks me up a little bit. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, Drake May is too talented and has less question marks than the other 2 quarterbacks that would be on the board here for them to consider. That I think that is what Washington will end up doing as well. I've basically said to everyone that's asked me that I will believe Drake May falls past 2 when I see it. And in these mocks where I do what I think they're going to do, I'm going to keep putting Drake May in the top 2. I just think he's that talented. So then moving on here to New England. Lots of conversation recently about what they could do. There are people that thinking that they could trade back. There are people thinking they could bypass quarterback altogether and go Marvin Harrison after they missed on the top receivers during the first wave of free agency. To me, I think it's still pretty simple. If you have no option on your roster that has any potential to be the future quarterback and you're drafting this high, you don't know when you're going to be drafting this high again. You go that route. And I think Jaden Daniels, the reigning Heisman winner, deserves to be drafted in this realm of place. I have him as my quarterback 3, and this is where he's coming off the board here. And I really do think we're going to see quarterbacks come off the board 1, 2, 3 this year. I really do. And I think New England's going to pull the trigger there.
Yep, I think that's a good pick. I think yeah, I'm a big fan of Jaden Daniels. I think he's another player where I feel like it's weird. It seems like, I don't know if you get the sense, like ESPN analysts, people that are on TV, it seems like are really, really high on Jaden Daniels. It seems like they're his consensus 2, and then consensus quarterback 2, and then like more film people on Twitter preferred Drake May. So I'm kind of like in between both of those. I'm not really considering him. If I'm making the decision, I'm not considering him at 2 over Drake May, but I also think that he should be a clear like top 5 pick. And I think some of his quote unquote issues throwing over the middle of the field are a little bit overblown, just more a function of the slot fade to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. being so, unbeatable, where it's like there's no reason for them to not just spam that over and over again. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Jaden Daniels. Pick 4, we got the Cardinals. So the Cardinals released the tackle is I'm drawing a blank on the tackle. They released their left tackle. They're going to move Paris Johnson Jr. over to the left side, signed Jonah Williams. So They should be good at tackle for now. And then I think makes sense to just go pretty chalk here and go with Marvin Harrison Jr. For the Cardinals. And, I think that Kyler Murray, he's going to be an interesting quarterback to watch this year. Like I was very bullish on Kyler Murray heading into the season. I thought there were stretches where he kind of showed that he's still that franchise quarterback, but clearly some rust coming back. So I think he has something to prove, but Marvin Harrison Jr. will be a great weapon to help him achieve that.
Yeah, they lost Hollywood Brown this week to Kansas City. They traded Rondell Moore away to the Falcons. They have to add talented receivers. I think they're a team that we should probably circle as potential to double up at receiver in those first 4 rounds, where a lot of because I think there are going to be day one starters in this receiver class drafted in the first 5 rounds. I think this class is that good. So I'm really circling Arizona as a team that could double up at receiver, and I think it's easy as well. I think they have to go receiver there. I think Marvin Harrison to Arizona has just made the most sense ever since the top 5 in this class were pretty clear. The top 4 going like that, to me, should be easy. Now, every mock draft that comes out, they find a way to throw a wrench in that for me. But that top 4 to me is just easy every single time right now. So then we're going to go here to pick 5 with the Los Angeles Chargers. Lots of things they could do with Marvin Harrison going a pick above them, because a lot of people are talking about Arizona as a team that could look to trade down. I think you're right, though, by the way. I think they end up taking Harrison. They don't do it. I think the Chargers are another team, though, that could look to trade down. We saw Minnesota make a move here recently to get that second first-round pick. So we're going to make it easy today. We're going to send those 2 firsts over to the Chargers, and the Vikings are going to come up, and we're going to have 4 quarterbacks go in the top 5, something that I think people are going to be shocked by a little bit, because we don't see that very often. But I mean, the more and more people I talk to around the league, the more fans that JJ McCarthy has. 20-year-old quarterback. I think a lot of his game is going to be projecting what they think he can be, because Michigan didn't really display his talent all that much on tape. So I think you kind of have to take some of his throws, and as little as they actually get to happen, you have to kind of multiply them and try to put it on a similar playing field as these other quarterbacks. And that may not be a successful way to look at it, but I mean, that's all you can do with McCarthy. He is a big old mystery box right now, and you could hit the jackpot with him, but Minnesota could also be right here again in a couple of years having to draft another quarterback. But trading up for that second first-round pick, not having to give up a future first in this trade, I think would make a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, Minnesota just cleaning up in terms of draft pick trade value in this scenario. Man, I would be pretty worried if I was a fan or member of an organization that drafted JJ McCarthy in the top 5. I'll say that. Pick number 6, we got the New York Giants. So, yeah, to me, this is really a no-brainer to go with Malik Neighbors here. I think that Rome Odunze, in my eyes, definitely helped his stock at the combine. Not really necessarily with the testing, but just looking really natural in all the drills. And I think, coming off as a personable guy, like, definitely can't hurt. But I do think that it's a clear tier of top 2 receivers for me, still with Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think that, he gives you the yak ability. I think he's got, not necessarily a super polished route runner, but he absolutely has the fluidity to develop into that. Good hands. I think that very hard for me to see Malik Neighbors being a bust. And I think that, a decent chance of him becoming a top 10 caliber receiver fairly quickly. So going to upgrade the firepower for the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I think the contract remorse they've had about giving Daniel Jones that contract happened pretty much immediately. They're kind of stuck with him right now because of dead cap, and I think a guy like Malik Neighbors is going to help you get the most out of a Daniel Jones because I think he can take nothing and turn it into something. And it'll be interesting to kind of see that fit, but I think Malik Neighbors at 6 makes a lot of sense for sure. And the Titans at 7, I think the Titans here would be probably one of the most excited teams that 4 quarterbacks went in the top 5 to push this guy down the board to them. I'm going to go Notre Dame's Joe Alt tackle here. I think that solidifies the left side. You put Alt at left tackle, Peter Skoronski at left guard. I know they kind of played around with him at tackle last year. Skoronski's a guard. I had him as a guard last year. I think they've come out already kind of saying that he's a guard with this new coaching staff as well. So Skoronski at left guard, Joe Alt at left tackle. I will say that the more people I talk to around the league, like Talisa Fuega is getting a lot of love to potentially be the first tackle as well. But I think at the end of the day, Joe Alt makes too much sense for Tennessee over a guy like Fuega.
Yeah. Is it Fuega?
Or Fuaga.
Okay. Now this is, I wasn't trying to be.
Oh, no, you're good.
Correcting, but this is the period of time where we're always learning new pronunciations. Now learning it's Fa'utanu. It's a lot to jumble, but
my favorite thing is after all the guys are drafted, they get added to the rosters, and when they get their bios on the team websites, they always have the pronunciation guides. That's always a big one. That comes after. There's been multiple Colts players that I don't know how to pronounce their names until week 3 of them being on the roster until that comes out. I think it's Fuaga.
That's what I always look forward to with Dane Brugler's draft guide coming out is I'll read through the scouting reports eventually, but first thing I'm doing is I've got a list of guys that I'm not sure how to pronounce their names. So I go through and find those, and then he's got birthdays for all the prospects, which can be a pain to find. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Some of them literally, they don't want you to know how old they are.
Yeah, man. If someone knows Renardo Green's birthday, hit me up in the DMs. As far as the Titans, I think 2 coaching staffs have said clearly that they view Peter Skoronski as a guard. I don't really see any future at tackle there. Totally agree with you. As far as how I viewed him as a prospect as well. And then, Fuaga, man, that would make me nervous because I really think he's a guard in the NFL. And
that's the thing with the Titans that I don't know how you could go Fuaga because Skoronski had that tweener vibes to draft another.
I'm not a super hardliner on positional value, but generally you want to try to draft the positions that at the top of the draft that you can't find in other places. Spending 2 top 10 picks, whatever it is on guards, I just think is bad business. Unless it's a huge gap in your grade, if you think there's a chance that Fuaga ends up, having to kick inside, I feel like that would be kind of minimizing your value in some way. But Joe Alt would be a slam dunk pick for sure. Got the Falcons up next. So the Falcons receiver is less of a need than probably would have thought heading into free agency.
They were busy.
What's that?
They were busy at receiver.
Yeah. So gonna go edge rusher here. This is kind of a class where I think it's really neck and neck at the top. But I think Dallas Turner is the clear choice for the Falcons. Seem to be getting that vibe combine week. And yeah, man, if he figures out, he doesn't need to be Leatu Latu level with his hands. If he just figures out a go-to move of winning with his hands, you combine that with his long arm, bull rush, just straight up speed and out athleting people. Dude's going to be an animal screaming off the edge. So Dallas Turner to the Falcons at 8.
Yeah, I mean, I've had Dallas Turner as my top edge pretty much all draft cycle. I think recently he's kind of separated himself as tier 1 on his own, and then tier 2 next is Verse and Latu. I think Turner's that good. I think Turner also is just going to fit more defenses than Verse and Latu. I think the amount of teams that are probably going to have those guys over Turner is dwindling by the day. And I think Turner to Atlanta makes a lot of sense after they kind of attacked offense in free agency. Getting the number 1 edge rusher here, getting the first defensive player off the board at 8 would be a good decision for them. The Bears at 9, they made a move for Keenan Allen. So going receiver here kind of seems redundant, but like,
you got to
Rome falling to them at 9. It's like, how do you not take him? But I don't know. I mean, maybe you'd move Keenan, let him play in the slot mostly. Then you'd have DJ Moore on the outside, Rome on the outside. Let Rome be the X in this offense. Like, that's the best thing that I can think of why you do. If Turner doesn't go at 8, I'd probably take Turner here just because they did so much at receiver. But with Rome falling to them at 9 here, like, I have to take Rome Odunze to the Bears. They can figure out the fit afterwards.
Yeah, I think that the Falcons addressing the offense the way that they did this offseason is honestly the best thing for the Bears. I mean, assuming that you want them to draft another receiver, because that opens them up to Dallas Turner. And then if Rome Odunze can fall to you at 9, I think that's a great value. I don't really think he's that redundant with Keenan Allen. I know that some people like comp Rome Odunze to Keenan Allen. I don't see as many similarities to their game as some other people. I think that Allen is much more of a technician as a route runner, but yeah,
Rome's stronger too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe back when people, myself included, weren't as high on Rome Odunze as an athlete, that makes more sense because Keenan Allen's kind of a good go-to comp when there's like a big, average athletic receiver that's just really skilled. Regardless, though, I think that's a nasty receiver core, and for a lot of Bears fans, I think that would be the dream scenario. So Jets at 10. Oh, man,
that's where it gets a little bit less chalk. Yeah, you could go so many different ways here.
So the Jets added Tyron Smith. At right tackle, is it Carter Warren? Is that who they're?
I mean, that's who I believe on paper it would be.
They still don't have anything at Becton's right tackle. I'm honestly, so I got to balance what I would do and what I'm thinking here. I would go Fuaga right here at 10. Just, ensure that you've got bookend tackles on both sides for as many games as Tyron Smith is going to be healthy. You're going to get, I think, all pro caliber left tackle play. Talise Fuaga is going to be a dominant run blocker at some point. Do kind of worry about his range in pass protection and his ability to block speed rushes. But, it seems like that's where the NFL, potentially views him over Joe Alt. Could also see Troy Fautanu here and move him over to right side. I mean, watching him in that workout, it looked like he could play any position in the NFL. So Fuaga to the Jets at 10.
Yeah, I mean, definitely could see it. And I mean, like we said earlier, I mean, Fuaga's a guy that could end up a tackle, could end up a guard. Bring him into training camp. He can kind of compete for multiple spots. The offensive line is one that I always talk about. Like, find a way to get the best 5 on the field anyway. So I think Fuaga gives them the best opportunity to do that. Go into camp, can compete at right tackle, can compete at both guard spots, and we'll see kind of how it works itself out. So could definitely see that. If Rome doesn't go at 9, do you take Rome Odunze to the Jets at 10?
Oh yeah, I definitely would. Yeah, Rome Odunze kind of ends for me the blue chip prospects, and then like Brock Bowers is a blue chip tight end, basically. So however you want to view that from a positional value standpoint.
Well, I mean, you just mentioned him. The Chargers trade back from 5, go back to 11. They would have loved to grab a receiver after they purged their entire receiver room this offseason. With the top 3 coming off the board, though, I think they will target a guy like Brock Bowers, who a lot of people have them taking at 5 anyway. They gain an extra first, and Bowers comes in and is going to be Herbert's number 1 receiving option until they kind of figure the rest of this out. But I think Brock Bowers is a good enough tight end to warrant this selection. I think when you look at him as a player and not so much as a tight end, the taking him so high in the first round makes a lot more sense than it sounds. But I think he can do more than what your typical tight end can do in the receiving game. And this guy can be a true weapon. And we saw last year how important it is to have a special tight end. The last 4 teams that were in the conference finals, in the conference championships last year, the Lions, Sam Laporta looks pretty dang good. George Kittle with the Niners, obviously. We know we know everything about that guy. And you go over to Baltimore with Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. So I mean, those are some great tight ends, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the Final 4 all had very impactful tight ends.
Yeah, if you're going to take a tight end in the first round, you just got to use them. You got to move them around the formation. You got to be willing to sacrifice some run blocking to just have him in for as many snaps as possible. Like I look at the way the Lions used Sam Laporta as just the perfect way of maximizing the value of a tight end. Like they didn't take him off the field. If they needed to hide him from certain blocking matchups, they would do that. But, recognizing who your best playmakers are. And I think Brock Bowers will clearly be that for the Chargers. Broncos at 12. So in all my what I would do mock drafts, I'm always going with Bo Nix here. But I don't think that's going to happen. So
maybe round 2.
I don't know. Maybe round 3. For the Broncos, I would consider edge here. Baron Browning has been a player that has flashed but never really been a consistent pressure getter. I think that cornerback is definitely a position of need opposite of Pat Surtain. And I'm going to go with Quinyon Mitchell for the Broncos. I think that partially based on what he's done and partially some other guys falling. For me personally, he's kind of emerged as my cornerback 1. I held on to Nate Wiggins for as long as possible, but I just had to get real about the playing weight. I think Quinyon Mitchell. You got Pat Surtain as kind of your lockdown press man guy that's just going to erase a number 1 receiver, and then Quinyon Mitchell is going to get peppered with targets and probably have a lot of ball production as a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the option of adding a top corner opposite of Patrick Surtain, the Broncos, another team that didn't just purge they purged their entire roster this offseason. So where they go at that pick could be any which of directions. I think the top 2 that I would consider, the 2 you mentioned, edge and corner. Quinyon Mitchell over Tyrion Arnold, though, is interesting. I'm really interested to hear throughout the process. Like, do you have Quinyon Mitchell ranked higher than Tyrion Arnold, or do you think it's just a better fit in Denver?
Yeah, I do have Quinyon Mitchell ranked higher. For me, Tyrion Arnold, I think he's a good example of how, like, I say this a lot, but like every conversation in the draft is relative as far as if you're high or low on someone. Like, I remember early, like back when the season was still going on, I'm banging the table for Terrion Arnold. I'm taking him in the back end of the first round in mock drafts, and people are like Terrion Arnold. And so he's a guy that, you know, is kind of one of my guys. And then once he emerges as this top 12 type of player, now he's more of a player that I'm lower on compared to consensus. I think that there are times that on his tape that his lack of recovery speed shows up as an issue. And that's why I wasn't surprised that he ran a 4.5, I think 4.51, which is like playable speed, but I don't think that he has elite makeup speed of Quinyon Mitchell or Nate Wiggins. I think he really struggles in off coverage, doesn't, isn't as instinctive breaking on routes as you would like to see. Average explosiveness and, zone coverage instincts, I think, very erratic, just as far as being assignment secure and, picking up switch releases and complex route combos. So I think he's very talented. He's got a lot of man coverage traits that you look for, but I do think that there's some limitations there. And I'm actually in the middle of working on a big rankings update, but I think he actually might end up as my cornerback 3.
Hey, Teach, though, he ended up as my corner 1. I was also a Nate Wiggins apologist for a very long time. The play weight, it's just hard to get over. And the guy can move at that weight, but it's hard to get over the outlier that would become. So moving over here to the Raiders now, they're in an interesting spot because, they're definitely one of the teams that would have loved for one of the top 4 quarterbacks to fall to them at 13. The McCarthy hype that's happening probably hurts any chance of that happening unless they want to trade up. And here in this mock, that didn't happen, obviously. So I love to go interior line for them before free agency. Obviously, they threw a bag at Christian Wilkins, and he's going to be manning the interior now. So they have multiple different things they could do. They could go offensive line. They could go corner. I am just going to go the best player that I have available at either of those positions. And I think I'm going to go corner. I'm going to go Terrion Arnold to the Raiders here. And the reason for that is I think this tackle class is kind of ridiculous to the point that they can get a quality starter at tackle. I feel better of my chances of getting a day 1 starter at tackle in round 2 for the Raiders than I do about getting a day 1 lockdown corner option. I think Terrion Arnold has that potential. You bring him in, and I think he's going to be able to compete to be their top corner day 1 in Vegas. So I think Arnold makes a lot of sense here.
Yep, I like that pick. Yeah, for me, it would be between Terrion Arnold and Nate Wiggins. Really, those top 3 corners are going to be like all ranked between 16 and 20 on my board. So not a huge difference in my grades for them. The Saints are just a wasteland on the defensive front every single year, it seems like, and they keep drafting players that I'm not a huge fan of. So I'm definitely considering Byron Murphy for the Saints. I'm considering one of the edge rushers. I think that tackle is definitely an issue though, with Ramczyk potentially retiring. Trevor Penning doesn't seem to be working out. So man, it's hard for me to draft Troy Fautanu over Olu Fashanu. But I think that's what would happen. So I'm going to go with Troy Fautanu for the Saints and add some stability to the offensive line. I think he could play probably all 5 positions, honestly.
Yeah, he's another guy that gets a lot of, is he a guard, is he a tackle? I think most of the time, as a rule. If you're being marked as a tweener between guard and tackle, you almost always end up a guard. It just feels like the trend in that. I think Troy is a guy that has shown enough that I think he can be a legit tackle at the next level. You make more money there, so if you can, like that's where guys are going to try to play. So I think he's going to end up playing tackle. So yeah, we'll see how everything works out there, but I could see that happening. So the Colts at 15. I mean, it's funny that the top two needs there are receiver and DB. It's pretty accurate for a guy that covers the Colts for A to Z Sports as well. I know they like Cooper DeJean from everything I've heard. I know they like a few of these receivers in this class. I'm going to go with the player that I think makes a bigger impact, and I think they're going to make a move at a different position this offseason pretty soon that will open up this pick. So I'm going to go Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, receiver. I think Brian Thomas's big playability on the outside, pairing with Michael Pittman Jr., is a perfect fit. You're able to slide him in over there. He's going to be able to pretty much go into the Z mold right away. I think the thing with him and Pittman will be interesting is I think both of them have the capabilities to be an X or a Z. So they'd have a little bit of formation flexibility that they could use. You use Josh Downs in the slot pretty much primarily. I think that creates a really fun receiver trio for Anthony Richardson in year 2 as he's coming back from injury.
Yeah, I like that pick. Man, Brian Thomas Jr. is so good at just torching press. I almost want him playing X because like I want him to face press coverage because it's gonna make the losses for the defense that much more extreme. But yeah, that's some crazy offensive firepower. The Seahawks. So the Seahawks need help at a lot of positions that you ideally don't want to be drafting in the first round, especially in this class, like with linebacker and safety. I think you can't go wrong with adding to the pass rush. And so I'm going to go with Leatu Latu. Actually, you know what? Leatu Latu or Byron Murphy? What do you think? I'm phoning a friend here.
I mean, Byron Murphy is a higher graded player for me. Mm-hmm. But obviously, I mean, edge rushers are always going to get like the premium love. Latu's big thing is all about medicals. If he got the green light at the combine, which I heard teams were pleasantly surprised with what they saw in his medicals about Latu at the combine. I think Latu would be the pick here if that's true and teams are comfortable with his knee and his leg. And if not, I think Byron Murphy's floor is significantly higher than Latu's.
Yeah, I think Byron Murphy is just a better prospect. I
agree.
Probably to me, I think he's the best pass rushing defensive tackle prospect since Quinnen Williams. Just what he can do as far as like lateral twitch to cross a blocker's face. Do kind of worry about him really holding up against double teams. Definitely a 3 technique only, but I think that that adds some major juice to your pass rush if you're Seattle.
So that was picks 1 through 16. Just real quick, I'm just going to run through the top just to repeat them if you joined a little late. But for the first pick, we went Caleb Williams to the Bears. Second, Drake May to the Commanders. Third pick, Jaden Daniels to the Patriots. Fourth pick, Cardinals took Marvin Harrison Jr. Fifth pick, the Vikings traded up for J.J. McCarthy. The sixth pick, the Giants added LSU receiver Malik Neighbors. Seventh pick, the Titans landed a blue chip left tackle in Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. 8, Dallas Turner went to the Atlanta Falcons to be their number 1 edge rusher. At pick 9, the Bears grabbed Rome Odunze, receiver out of Washington. At pick 10, the Jets swung in and got Fuaga, the tackle/guard from Oregon State. Can kind of compete at both positions for them. At pick 11, the Chargers, who traded back with the Vikings, still landed Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia. At pick 12, the Broncos took Quinion Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. At pick 13, the Raiders took Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. At pick 14, the Saints took Troy Fontanu, tackle/guard out of Washington. At pick 15, the Colts took Brian Thomas Jr., receiver out of LSU. And at pick 16, ending this episode for us, the Seahawks took Byron Murphy, the second defensive tackle out of Texas. So that is going to be all we do for you guys today. We are going to cover picks 17 through 32 in our next week episode. So make sure you guys are tuning in for that. And maybe we'll switch it up. Maybe I'll let James be odds and I'll be evens on that episode. We'll kind of play it by ear. But
got to take Theo Johnson for the Jags. Ras King.
I mean, they just have to go over the fact that they took Strange in round 2 last year. So they're like, how do we beat that pick?
Trent Baalke's just going to sort by arm length.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. But this has been the Football Room. My name is Destin Adams. He is James Foster. And we will be back next week to talk everything NFL Draft. Thank you, and the Football Room is now closed.